Ezzy Talk Sports. Today we're talking boxing, and Nate Diaz versus Jake Paul is next week, and we're going to be going over today how Nate Diaz can in fact beat Jake Paul. Now, Jake Paul is the massive favourite. Not many people give Nate Diaz a chance. Jake Paul's had a lot of boxing matches. Nate Diaz has never had a boxing match, well, a professional boxing match at least. Jake Paul's been in with some good opposition. He did get, battered a little bit by Tommy Fury, but he did drop him. Whether you count that as a proper knockdown or not, that's another question. But yeah, knocked out Woodley. Jake Paul's a decent boxer. I don't think he's going to be a top level professional as he says he is, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. But yeah, Nate Diaz, I think a lot of people are maybe underestimating him, and I think Jake Paul himself could be one of those people who are actually underestimating Nate Diaz. But yeah, if you guys don't know about Nate Diaz, if you're, just a boxing fan or you just don't like UFC at all, Nate Diaz, his strengths, the main strength is he's got incredible gas tank. He can just go forever, just doesn't get tired, and he's got an incredible chin, never been knocked out, and he's had a very long career, been in some crazy fights. I'll put some shots in behind of just some of the ridiculous punches he's taken and just kept going.
Nate Diaz, and a head kick again.
But yeah, I think these are the two things he needs to use to his advantage. And obviously it is a different kettle of fish. He's never been in with someone as heavy as Jake Paul. I think this fight's at 185, maybe more. So Jake Paul's going to be the heaviest and arguably the biggest puncher that he's been in with. And we know Jake Paul, as we mentioned, he knocked out Woodley. We know he's a big puncher. He can put people to sleep like that. But another thing we've seen about Jake Paul is he gets very tired. Against Woodley in the first Woodley fight, that is, and even in the second Woodley fight, he wasn't looking good. He was looking a bit fatigued, and he came out with that big monster right hook. But in the first Woodley fight, he got tired towards the end. He got wobbled during the middle. He didn't look amazing. He got the job done, but it wasn't by no means. It wasn't like, oh, Jake Paul's so good after that Woodley fight. But yeah, Nate Diaz, I can't really think of ever when he's been really tired. He's just an absolute beast. He's been boxing. He's been fighting for longer than I have even been alive. And that's something that he needs to use to his advantage. So Nate Diaz, if I'm Nate Diaz going into the fight, this is what I'm thinking. You need to survive the first few rounds, because that's when Jake Paul's going to be, at his, that's when he's going to be at his best. I think Jake Paul, he kind of gets worse as the fight goes along. He claims that he gets better as the fight goes along, but I don't believe that personally. But yeah, Nate Diaz, survive the first few rounds. Don't get clipped by something mega. And I think Nate Diaz, he even though he's never had a boxing match, he's a good striker. And I remember the first time, there's been 2 clips of Nate Diaz boxing in the build up to this fight. I'll play the first one. And as you can see, that does not exactly fill you with confidence. But then there was another one, and he looked better. But yeah, I think Nate Diaz can use his boxing skills to not get clipped by anything major early on. And I think if he does that, then that'll be amazing for him, because I think if Nate Diaz is going to lose his fight, I think it's going to be early. But yeah, if he can get through those first 4 rounds, because remember, this is a 10-round fight, and that's something Jake Paul's never been in a boxing ring for 30 minutes. And Nate Diaz, obviously, he's not been in for 30 minutes, but he's been in for 25, longer than Jake Paul's ever been in a boxing ring, that is. And obviously, when you're in MMA, it's a lot more tiring, takedowns and all that stuff. But yeah, if he can get through those first 4 rounds and he can use his boxing skills, his limited boxing skills, to either not get hit with anything significant, or combine that with his chin and take some licks, but not to the stage where he gets wobbled and he can be finished, then that's when Nate Diaz can actually use his own skills and impose the fight and make it into more of a dogfight and possibly cause a big upset and beat Jake Paul. So let's just say he does that, uses his skills to get out the first 3-4 rounds. Then Nate Diaz, this is when you need to start clinching, using the clinch, using your MMA skills, maybe in clinch, just roughing him up, Jake Paul, just making it uncomfortable, start landing these unorthodox punches on him, just make Jake Paul feel uncomfortable, take him out of his comfort zone. Because one thing I think Jake Paul is underestimating Nate Diaz. I think he thinks, I've just lost to Tommy, I need an easy fight with a big name, and he's gone to Nate Diaz. He's thinking, Nate Diaz, all washed-up MMA fighter, just like Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren, it's just going to be a, simple day in the office. But I think Nate Diaz is better than a lot of people make out. But yeah, and with Jake Paul's fatigue as well that we've seen, Nate Diaz needs to, I think he'll grow into the fight, and then towards the end, just start landing in punches, clinching, pushing him around, and then possibly, I think if Nate Diaz is going to win, I don't think it'll be by points. I think Nate Diaz, if he's going to win, he's going to win by a late stoppage. And I think, Jake Paul will be tired. I don't know if he's trained as hard, but I know he's been putting out more videos. Usually when he's fighting, I know the Tommy build-up, he barely put out anything, but he's been putting out a lot of videos and stuff. Seems like he's been a bit sidetracked. That coupled with Diaz's amazing gas tank, coupled with Jake Paul's own fatigue, that could lead him to be, a sitting duck at the end for Nate Diaz to take out. And Nate Diaz, we've seen, the one that springs to mind, Leon Edwards, when he gets guys hurt, he doesn't always finish them, and he can lose the fight. But hopefully Nate Diaz has learned his lesson from that, and he can finish off Jake Paul. That is, if you're a Nate Diaz fan. But yeah, I think that is I wouldn't say a strong possibility, but it is a possibility. Diaz survives the first few rounds. Jake Paul's tired, Diaz's gas tank builds into it, and then I think we could see him stopping him around 8, 9 or 10. But yeah, that is my prediction that's not my prediction, sorry. That is one way I think Nate Diaz can win. But if I'm being honest, I think it's very unlikely that happens, and I think that Jake Paul will win, and I think it'll be by knockout between round 2 and 4 probably. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is going to win? And comment down below, and how do you think they're going to win? But yeah, Spence Crawford, that fight just happened yesterday. I'm going to do a breakdown of that, and that'll be out Monday or Tuesday. But yeah, thank you for watching. I've been Ezzy Talk Sports.